Thank you for being here. I see some out-of-towners. Yes, I do. Yeah, we welcome you guys. So, we need each other, you know? It's one thing to just kind of study on your own and, you know, reflect a lot. Uh-oh, this looks caught in here. I'm gonna try to figure this out in front of you all. Uh-oh. All right, we're gonna do a mic switch. All right, there we go. Yeah, it's important to have each other's company. So I really appreciate you guys here. We have slowly, we're rolling out more and more group activities. So you're gonna see the women's group, you're gonna see the young adult group, hopefully soon a men's group, different things. And as we go into that kind of season, I want to kind of put a certain tone or a certain thing in your mind to concentrate on. And that is to see the good in each other. To see the good in each other. And that's sort of the topic today. Because we do learn from feedback from each other. You know, somebody might have gone through something in their life that you can learn from, and then vice versa. And the prime example of this, and he's the star of all my sermons, and I've left him out the last couple months, but the prime example is my dog Edmund. He is the master of picking up stuff very quickly just because I kind of reward it back, even on accident. So I'm going to give you a couple stories, two things he's recently learned from me training him on accident. One of those things is he rests his cheek on my foot while I'm eating. It's so irresistibly cute. I cannot stand it. And then when that doesn't work, because you know what he's asking for, right? He's asking for the chicken or whatever I got in my hand or my plate. And when that doesn't work, because I've tried to, you know, become a stronger person this year. I'm really working on my discipline. When that doesn't work, he changes the location from my foot to my shin. And he lays his face on my shin and looks up at me like this. And doesn't move. And he's just watching me eat. How can you know when you're eating in public and somebody's watching you eat? It's uncomfortable. Yeah, you're not supposed to do that in certain cities. Like, where I used to live, you're not supposed to do that. It just makes you uncomfortable. But this is a different kind of uncomfortable. This is a guilt. This is an unbearable shame and guilt on my soul. Like, how could I ignore this creature? You know, just so innocent and so good. You know, nature and animals have a lot to teach in that way. So of course I give in, of course. You know I do. I think I give in more than Keishu does. I feed him. And sometimes I use the excuse of, oh, well there's some little like gravy on my plate, I'll just put the plate, you know, or just scoop it off for him. Yeah, it's pretty bad. He eats well, I'll tell you that. And the other thing he started to do was, and this is amazing, he started to wake us up in the morning, and he found out a special way to do it. He starts by making this little sound. And when that doesn't work, which he usually doesn't, he starts climbing his way toward my head. He jumps up on the bed, he starts climbing my way, and by the time I actually wake up, he's on my head, like this. I hear this sound right next to my ear. And I realize, I know what he's doing. He's mimicking an alarm clock. He's literally like, I'm like, oh my God. And you know what I did wrong? I got up and I fed him. Oh, he's hungry. I got up and I fed him and I took him on a walk. And I've been doing that. Now he does it almost every day.
Yes, you will train.
So if you ever wonder what my mornings look like, yeah, don't wonder what my mornings it's just that. And so it's kind of funny how you kind of reinforce in each other and in animals and in everybody the things you're kind of repeating back or putting energy into. So the more we come here, the more we tell each other, great job, I like what you're doing, I like that small group you put together, I liked that prayer you had. The more we do that, it's so simple, but we're actually increasing the amount of energy in that area. So it's actually really important. It's really important. It's a small thing, but Edmund is my teacher a lot of times. And so this month we've been talking about authenticity. And one spin I wanted to take on this today was to clarify something. Sometimes it gets mistaken for, oh, I gotta be authentic, so I have to bear all my vulnerabilities. I have to tell everybody what I think, and I have to tell everybody what I'm struggling with or insecure about all the time at whim or at will. That's not quite it. That can be mistaken for just an over-spilling of honest, maybe TMI, right? And actually, some problems and some struggles or some times in your life are kind of better dealt with a close mentor or even privately in reflection. Maybe just you and God, or just you and a mentor, or something like that. Sometimes it's not meant for everything. The whole, megaphone styles to shout at the mountaintops. So today I wanted to kind of explore this topic, something I've been thinking about and kind of looking into a lot, which is the best you is the real you. And that's something we teach in the Divine Principle, that we all carry around with us on good days, bad days, whatever. Something we call an original mind. A part of you that just always stays true to wanting to get back to God, wanting to be good. And I think this is a strong concept to meditate on right now in this world. Because if you go by the nightly news, you're going to lose your faith in mankind really fast, if that's all you go by. And then you walk down the street and you say hi to people. My neighbors, my whoever. And you realize that most people are just good. Most people are just good. Naturally. And I want to reinforce a feeling that we can look for the good in each other. That actually the real person, so sometimes we get this idea of, oh, this person's being a little fake. They're really got all these problems. Did you hear this? Did you hear that? Well, actually, I'd like to rebuttal against that and say, actually, the real them underneath all that is shining. The real you is of God's design. The real you is just awesome. That's how it's supposed to be. And actually, science is starting to catch up to this. I'm reading a book called The Perfect You, and it's a Christian author that does a lot of science experiments. I like this book. Does a lot of very scientific woman that wrote it, but she marries it with Bible quotes. And so she says, wow, look at this science study, and then look at how scriptures kind of do this already, or reinforces it. And one of the things that was really interesting, maybe the main thing that stuck out to me so far, was that when we're born, we're not born with a sense of fear. We're only born with a mindset of love. Only love. That's all you start with. Love is innate, and fear is learned. Fear is something you learn on earth. It's not something that you're divinely installed with. Sure, there's survival instincts, there's certain DNA, but love is there, and love is the primary and the only real template we have. And then we kind of learn, oh. So I wanted to tell you, love is innate, and science is more and more coming up to this level. And that actually mirrors what we teach in the Divine Principle, that you have an original mind. That's kind of your original blueprint, is to just go learn. It might not be perfect, might not be smooth, but you will get to a place where you're just resonating with God. And you're constantly growing. I wanted to give you a couple examples of how the Bible tells us this. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. 2 Timothy 1:7. And I found this pretty interesting quote from Aaron Moon. When you pursue your original mind, you should be able to hear moral laws and see divinity in your mind's eye. You should be able to feel and touch the heart of God with your mind's eye. So we didn't have all these problems at the beginning of this history that we have. We actually learned a lot of our fear, a lot of our doubts, and a lot of our insecurities, a lot of our impatience. We learned all these things. And so, there's good news and bad news from that. The bad news is we got flaws from people that came before us, and you can't give them back. You can't just go, oh, hey, here, I don't like this character trait, I'm giving it back. You have them. You know, I know that we all have, I can't think that anybody could, well, let's say it this way. Think of your parents. Could you find maybe one thing that they could have done better? Sure. Maybe something that was flawed, something that fell short for you, something that didn't do right. Now think of them. They could probably do that same exercise for their parents, and so on and so forth. So there's always somewhere that it comes from. So really, you can't give it back. You only have a choice to make. Do we pass this on? Do we continue it on, make it worse? Or do we chip away at it and try to make it better? That's the choice. So Divine Principle is teaching us that we're cognizant that we inherited a certain amount of problems. And we're going to try to make a conscious choice to make it better. You know, and in this way, it's actually kind of, I found this to be, as the more I thought about this, the more it's kind of empowering to say, I can actually face some of these things in my life very honestly and not feel the total shame of the world on my head. Because sometimes the religiosity gets a little too intense on the shame end, right? Have you heard people saying that? We don't like religion. Why? It's a system of control. It shames you into behaving the way certain people want you to behave. So what we're trying to do is honestly work on things without the intense shame and fear overwhelming our lives. And it's kind of, to me, it's kind of interesting that we're aiming for a perfection, yet we're so far away. How do you deal with that? Well, the way I look at it is if you could just make your lineage or your kids a little notch better than you were raised, you've done something good, you've gone in the right direction. That's actually really cool. And if we keep that up, we know we're going to get somewhere really good. You know, it might be okay to feel the intense weight of our shortcomings, our failings. Oh, we failed as a family, or I failed in my marriage, or I failed in this church, or something of that nature. It might be justified to feel all that intensity if you were the first person in history to mess it up, right? If everybody else got it right and then you got it wrong, wow. Man, you messed it up. The thing is, it's actually the opposite. It's been 6,000 years of a lot of stuff gone wrong. So I think it's kind of good to take that into context, right? In Divine Principle Chapter 1, we teach the main thing we did wrong was we lost God's perspective. So if you're God, you're looking at the whole line of things and you see your life at the end of this line, at the most current part of this line, I think God is going to be pretty forgiving and pretty understanding when we fall short. Because it's all about the heart, and it's about chipping away and going in the right direction. So we're actually inheriting a lot, but we're here trying to make a decision in a culture to make it better. What's exciting is actually now we have the tools and the teachings that people before us didn't have. We have spiritual teachings of true father, true mother. We have deeper and deeper understandings of the Bible. We have deeper and deeper understandings of science, which kind of helps fortify all of it. We have deeper and deeper understandings of psychology, which is actually part of this too. We actually have tools now that gives us the ability to examine ourselves, gives us the ability to heal ourselves. I told you about the Wim Hof method, right? The breathing. This guy can climb Mount Everest in shorts and bathe in ice for 2 hours and not lose his core temperature just from breathing exercises. We're learning more and more. And no longer do you have to just listen to the people in your tribe. You can actually go worldwide internet access and find information. People who are fixing things, finding cures, doing Facebook Live events about how they're finding cures. It's really cool. It's freaking awesome. So we have an amazing time now to take advantage of information, to take advantage of sort of an enlightenment, to really work towards a better world. The main part of that I want you to kind of stay with is that, yes, we inherited things. It's not our fault. It's not your fault. But it's our job now. We got the job. The buck has passed to us. It's not your fault, but it's your job. So sometimes I feel like it's a little intense to say, we own this, we're owning heaven, we're going to build it. That's good, but just breathe a little easier. I was trying to tell myself, I got to breathe a little easier this week. You know, we're all in the school of love, right? The family is the school of love, but actually this is an extended family. And I was thinking about it. If you overly shoot too high, imagine a student that's just learned how to do addition, subtraction, long division, and now it's calculus, you know, or it's string theory, right? You have to go one grade at a time. So sometimes we hit this, we see this target in our minds, and it's good to have heroes and people that inspire us. But it's also good to give yourself a little bit of a break and say, as long as I can get to the next grade, then I've learned something. So in the school of love, we're going one grade at a time. You don't have to make everything perfectly on course. As long as it's steering a grade better. That's actually quite a lot of improvement. Because we know that there's actually a force that wants to work against us, that wants to steer us further off course. So it happens gradually. I think as we have these groups and as we congregate a little more this year, I want to build each other up and focus on the building of a new culture and a building of a new world. And that's very important because it's not so much about, let's see your scorecard, let's see your history record, let's see your resume. It's more about, can you pick up a shovel and dig? Good. Let's get the shovel. Trade in the shame, pick up the shovel. And I love that, this image of the shovel, because it's actually very symbolic for how things get done. You've planned it all out, you've picked your lot, you've got your seeds, you know what you're going to do, but you haven't really started until you got the shovel in your hand and you stuck it in the mud or in the dirt. I think in our movement, I feel like, at least on a tribe level, we're kind of there. We kind of have the blueprint and the game plan. It's time to all pick up shovels. And what's great about a shovel is, well, you get good exercise. B, I think it can teach you a lot because it's one scoop at a time. And there's really no getting more than that one scoop. I mean, you can kind of overload that scoop, but it's really just a finite amount. And I feel like it's a good analogy for how we're growing. There is a finite sort of amount that you can kind of get through in each day. It's kind of good to, again, breathe a little easier. Chip away at it over time. It doesn't have to be dug in one day or in one scoop, just one scoop at a time. And that's what we're doing. We're kind of building this one little scoop at a time. It might go a little faster or a little slower than we expect. I know sometimes I feel like, this week I feel like, I don't know what I did this week, I was so busy. You ever think about that? Like, I was thinking, what did I do this week? And I couldn't remember any of it. It was like, there was so much going on. So there's only so much that you can fit in. And sometimes when I have these really busy weeks, I feel like, wow, I can't remember any of it. I must not have done anything. So, I don't know. I don't know if that's relatable, but that's kind of something I've gone through a lot. I feel like I'm busy. It's good to take a step back, breathe easy and go, well, if I can get this one scoop out of the ground this week, then I've done something. As long as you don't give up, like we talked about this morning. The decision to just keep going in this direction is the most important thing. Doesn't really matter how fast. So I want to leave you with that this week. My call to action is pretty simple. We're in the school of love. Let's go one grade at a time. You might have gotten your troubles and your difficulties, but it's not really your fault at all. It's not your fault. We've got some stuff that was passed on to us, but it's our job now to do our best at working at it. And remember that underneath all of these things, the best version of yourself, the place that you're headed, is your original mind and is the real version of you. Your real you is the best version of you. The other stuff is false. The other stuff's been put on top of you. And as we go through, let's give each other a little more breathing room horizontally too. Because when you're dealing with somebody and you might think that they're difficult or you might think one thing or another, you got to remember that the best version of them is the real them. The best version of them is where they're headed. That's the real them too. So this week, let's see the good in each other. Let's pick out something. Let's reward and reinforce and verbalize and validate what we want to see in the world. And especially if that's a cute French bulldog laying his cheek on your face or your body somewhere. You can always do that too. Okay guys, thank you very much.